Good evening, and thanks for coming to our social etiquette and our social conversations and etiquette expert lecture by Janet Parnes. This is part of the Bigelow Library's How to Get a Job series, and we're really pleased to have Janet here tonight. She's going to walk us through some of the techniques and tips that you could use in interview processes, asking about other people during your and you're doing any sort of networking for a job. Keep in mind that we're recording this. It's going to be on our YouTube and the library's YouTube and on our Facebook channel. So that's the Bigelow Library. If you look up Bigelow Library in YouTube or on Facebook, you will find these recordings. This is actually part of a whole series. And so there are other recordings on those sites as well. So everything sort of ties together. Like I mentioned, I've heard Janet speak before, and I'm very pleased to have her here tonight. Janet, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Melissa. When you think of a job interview, what happens? Do your shoulders slump? Does your head drop? Do your stomach muscles tense up? Do you think of a job interview as an endurance test? What if a job interview could be an opportunity for you to share your experience, your accomplishments, your awards, your brilliance? A job interview is a unique experience. Think about it. Aside from your mother, who else wants to hear about this stuff but a job interviewer? So if we prepare for a job interview, if we prepare and we can walk into that door or join a virtual meeting with a sense of confidence, with an air of professionalism and confidence, it's going to make that interview so much easier and so much more enjoyable. You will learn how to do that tonight. You'll learn some key tips. My name is Janet Parnes. I've been bringing my social conversation and etiquette workshops to clients of various ages for more than 10 years. Over the last 6 to 7 years, I've really focused on college students and professionals. I've been featured in media outlets that include the Boston Globe, Metro West Daily News, many local papers, as well as NPR, NBC, and so that it spans there's a panoply of media outlets. But no matter who I'm talking to, no matter who the client is, they're all learning one thing. They're learning lessons that stem from this principle. All things being equal, people do business with and refer business to those they know, like, and trust. I added in here, hire and promote. People want to hire and promote people they know, like, and trust. So how do you generate this likability and trust? We're going to talk about that tonight. We do that by making an interviewer feel valued, understood, and heard. So before I go on, note that there is a detailed summary of the presentation available so that you don't have to take notes unless you choose to. If you email me, I'll be able to send it to you, and my email address is in the chat. If you have questions, simply ask. Be happy to answer them. So let's get started here. So the topics we'll cover tonight, include these. Now think about it. There are techniques to interviewing, but there are also skills. It's similar to driving a car. If we want to drive a car, we have to learn how to apply the brakes. But we also have to develop skills such as developing awareness of that which is going on around us. It's the same with interviewing. And these are some of the skills that we need to develop. You'll see these pop up periodically throughout the presentation. Let's talk about preparedness. Of course, we want to be prepared before we go into an interview. Always, always, always. So let's talk about a couple of the things that we need to do. One of the things we need to do is have a pad and paper ready because we want to take down notes. And we may refer to these notes during the interview. We would tell the interviewer, do you mind if I just jot down notes and refer to my notes a little bit? Okay. We want to research the organization, of course. Now in these days, it's really easy to do that because we have the internet. So you want to look at the organization's website. Obviously, you want to find out more about the products and services that they offer and get a general sense of the company culture. One page that you definitely want to focus on is the media page. Maybe media page, it may say news page. This is the page that contains the company's press releases. These are products or services that the company has deemed important enough that they want to tell the world about them. So what you want to do is take a look at these products or services. Take a look at some of the more recent press releases. Note the product or service that's the topic, and then just take a look at the first paragraph and note a little bit about it and jot that down. What this will help to do is help you to see what differentiates the company from the competition. So, what are you going to do with this information once you have it, once you've researched the company? You're going to save it and tell it to your friends. What are you going to do with it? Which, 1, 2, or 3?
Do you mind if I answer this one, Janet? I'm going to pick number 2.
Yes, absolutely use this for fodder for conversation. During the interview, we're not sponges that soak up that which the interviewer sends us. No, we want this to be interactive. We want to be able to initiate the conversation at certain points during the interview. We want to have topics to raise, and the website is a great place to gain those topics. Now, some people have said they think that number 3 is appropriate, offer constructive criticism about something about the company and show how you can care. It shows you care. Someone said, why don't you take a problem the company has and offer a solution? That's a really dangerous route to take. First of all, you may have heard that this company has a particular problem, but you don't know the context. It also can appear to be rather arrogant that you're coming in as an interviewee and trying to solve a problem. So I would not heed that advice. I would ignore that advice if it's given to me. We want to look at the company's online presence. We also need to look at our own. Our online presence needs to match the company culture. Remember, when we interview for a job, we want the interviewer to feel that we belong in the company. So I know when I was interviewing for jobs, any company for which I interviewed, I would not have been impressed by an email that says, crazy Jamie. No, you can keep the crazy email, but develop one that is specifically for interviewing that is conservative. In addition, what's your online presence? This picture would not have impressed interviewers when I was interviewing for jobs. So again, take down anything that will show you in a light that may not be favorable for the job. It doesn't mean you can't have pictures up showing you having a good time, but make sure that they're appropriate. And of course, if we're interviewing, we have to secure references. There's a whole lot to say about securing references. I'll just touch on a couple of points. Whoops, wrong way. First of all, ask. I know this sounds obvious, but ask someone in advance, I'm going to be interviewing for a job. Would you be willing to serve as a reference? That way they don't receive some surprise phone call or email. And secondly is feed them information. I say this for this reason. There's a friend of mine named Jack. Jack was telling me, the son of some friends of mine, he's 19 years old, he's interviewing. He asked if I should be a reference for him. I said, oh, sure, because I've known this boy since he was a little kid. But he said, I thought about it afterwards. I thought, wait a minute. I saw a lot of him when he was little, but as he's grown up, he's gone his own way. I really don't know much about what he's done or his accomplishments. I don't know much about him. I don't know what to tell an interviewer if they call me. So Jack had 2 options. He could either muddle through the conversation if he was called, or he could call the young man and ask him, tell me what you've been up to. Tell me about yourself and your accomplishments, your experience. So we don't want to put a reference through that, and we don't want to take the chance that they won't ask us and fumble through the conversation with the interviewer. So we want to give them information up front. We can't expect someone to have our accomplishments, achievements, and experience top of mind. So ask, would you like me to send you some information about myself? I'll tell you what I've been up to. That way, they will relay information that you want the interviewer to know about. And the information that the reference gives the interviewer will support that which you give during the interview. So it'll just strengthen it. But this is, if you're strategic about references, you can use them to strengthen your interview. All kinds of questions, okay. Interviewer questions. If you look online, common questions an interviewer asks, you'll see hundreds of them. You'll see ones that appear on all these different sites. So I've just listed a few of them here. We'll talk about a couple. The interviewer may say to you, so tell me about yourself. And how do you answer that? There's this broad, almost infinite universe of possibilities for topics. So what you might ask is, well, what would you like to know about me? Would you like to know about my work experience, my academic background? What would you like to know? So narrow the field. Another common question, what are your weaknesses? You're going to say, well, I know I have some, but I really can't come up with any right now. That's not going to go over so well. We all have weaknesses, and the interviewer knows that. So do come prepared to rate with a couple of weaknesses that you can raise, answers to that question. But you don't want to just simply say, for example, well, I tend to be late. That's not going to go over so well. You want to cite a weakness and then tell the interviewer what you're doing about it. That's a strong indication, because if you cite a problem and then offer a solution, it means in the workplace, if you see a problem, you will be looking for a solution. You will come up with a solution. So that shows initiative. So for example, one of my weaknesses is I have trouble being on time. Always have. I did until a few years ago. I was meeting a friend. I said, Elise, I'm so sorry, I'm late again. She said, no, you're not. You're right on time. You're 15 minutes late. You're always 15 minutes late. I thought, you know something? I am. I was generally late for social appointments, not for work related, but for social appointments, I was terrible. 15 minutes late. Yeah, that's right. So what do I do now? If I know I have to leave the house at 2, I set my alarm for 1:30. That takes care of the 15-minute tardy time, and it gives me another 15 minutes of cushion. So now, instead of tearing out of the house, screaming out of the house late, I have to bring something to do because I'm probably going to be early for an appointment. So you see how I cited a weakness, but then this is what the solution to it, the solution that I'm offering. The wrap-up question, at the end of an interview, what will an interviewer commonly ask? Do you have any ideas?
You sort of touched on the, inevitably there is, this is Melissa again, inevitably there's the, what have you overcome? At the wrap up, at the end, very often you'll get, do you have any other questions? What do you want to know about the position? Sometimes they won't even put that out, but the idea would be, what are your questions? So I would assume that you should come to the interview not only with the information that you learned about the company, but maybe a few more things specific to the job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The one answer is there anything else you'd like to tell me? It's just another way of phrasing your question, Melissa. Is there anything else you'd like to tell me? Is there anything else you'd like to know? The one answer you do not want to come back with is no. Oh, no, I'm all set. No. You want to come in with a couple of questions in your quiver that you can pull out to answer this in case this situation arises. So you'll come with a couple of questions, and I would suggest 2 or 3. The reason being this, the interviewer might have answered a couple of them. You don't want to ask a question that's already been answered. You also can, as you're listening through the interview, you may come up with you very likely will come up with a question to ask based on the information the interviewer has given you, and you can jot that down. But you want to always have something else. But it's like wrapping up the interview. So that actually you end up wrapping up the interview instead of the interviewer. Isn't that interesting? We want to also, one of the skills we want to develop is the ability to engage others. We want to be able to engage the interviewer. As I said earlier, we're not a sponge just soaking up that which is given to us. We want to give back. We want this to be an exchange of information. So one way of engaging the interviewer, of course, is to ask questions. Again, you can look online and you'll see many questions to ask at an interview. You'll see many sites with them, and you'll see questions that appear on many of the sites. So there's just a few of them here. So are there any questions about this?
Actually, I just a statement. Your first one, what attributes make the people who work for you successful? I think is an excellent question. Talk about putting it in your quiver. I think that's a wonderful thing to have if you are being interviewed. I think it's, you can turn that on your head if you're the person doing the interviewing. What attributes do you have that you think make you a successful employee? It's a beautiful question.
Right. And we want to, in just a couple of many that are really sound questions, and questions that show interest, questions that show that you're listening and you're interested in the content, you're interested in the company, you're interested in the interviewer, interested in the position. This leads to the reasons for engaging an interviewer. Again, we're not sponges. We want to engage the interviewer because when we engage somebody, they feel valued, understood, and heard. When we engage them, they become engaged with us. It's one way of generating their likability and trust is to engage someone in conversation, ask questions, be curious. I also, at this lower one, is tell me more about. Let's say that you're interviewing for, say, Nike, a shoe company, and you want to ask a question about the shoes, but you don't quite know what to ask. You don't, do I ask about the weight? Do I ask about the flexibility in the sole? You're not quite sure what to ask, but you always say, tell me more about, and maybe there's a new product that they've released. Tell me more about the XYZ product. This way you don't have to think of the specifics, but you can ask a question and show interest. I love that, tell me more about. And that's also a great question to ask if there's a lull in the conversation and you're not sure what to say. Request for information. So tell me more about and reference something that the interviewer has previously said. Oh, dress to impress. Oh, yes. When we enter that interview room, whether it's on screen or whether it's in person, the interviewer is going to immediately assess us by the way we look, the way we carry ourselves, and the way we dress. That's going to make an instant and deep imprint. So we want that imprint to be one of confidence and professionalism. We can project that by the way we dress. So first order of business is to know the company dress code. One way of determining this, if possible, is to visit the organization. Stop by in the mornings as people are entering the building, or stop by late in the day as people are exiting the building. See how people are dressed. And of course, you always want to dress a notch above the way you think you ought to dress for the position. You want to dress one notch above. If you are really not sure how to dress for the interview, call HR. Explain, I'm coming for an interview for this position. How should I dress for the interview? Because different companies have different expectations and different dress codes. And when you stop by the company, do not stop by on a Friday. Because of course, casual Friday, people are coming out they may be coming out in jeans and sneakers on Friday, whereas Thursdays, they have a jacket, tie, and suit on. And this also applies to when we join a company. I was working for an organization. There was a new hire. He was dressed perfectly appropriately the first week he came, Monday, Thursday, perfectly appropriate. On casual Friday, he appeared in shorts. He was the only person in the entire building who was wearing a pair of shorts that day. Although he walked around trying to hold his head high, I could tell he was absolutely cringing. So don't only ask about the dress code from Monday to Thursday. Don't make any assumptions about casual Friday. Also be sure to ask what is the code for casual Friday? It's more casual with some companies than with others. It used to be that most interviews, if the interviewer and the interviewee were located in this fairly close to each other, the interview would take place in person. Now, of course, they're all virtual. So there are many principles that apply to both, but there are certain considerations with a virtual interview that we don't need to consider with an in-person. What are a couple of considerations you think?
How you position the camera.
Yes.
Lighting.
Yes.
Posture. You don't think of this, but a lot of times you're slumping at your computer. You don't even realize that you're doing it. They're probably. I don't even know how maybe you could give some advice on this. I don't know how one even preps for one. Do you work with a friend? to see how you're projecting on a screen?
You can. Or you can record. I've also gone into Zoom and presented and then recorded it, and I could see the recording.
So that's excellent advice too. That's actually really.
But I've also, there are two computers at home, so I'll use two computers and look at one. How do I look and look at the other one? So there are ways. But you're right. You do want to test it. Let's take a look at some of these. First of all, is attire. We want to, again, our attire is going to make a first impression on that interviewer. We want it to be one of professionalism and confidence. So we want it, even though it's virtual, we want to dress for an interview. There are some who say, well, we only have to dress for an interview from the head down to, say, mid-torso. I think differently about that. The way we dress, it helps determine the way we feel. Interestingly, we think that the brain speaks to the body and the body acts. So the brain says, be confident, and the body, we stand straighter. But that's actually a two-way conversation. Our gestures also send a signal to the brain. So if we want to feel a full measure of confidence, not only is the brain telling us, feel confident, we stand straight, but the posture, by standing straight and in the way we dress, we send a signal back to the brain that giving that feeling of confidence. So when we dress for an interview, if we want to feel really confident and not have to worry at all, I say dress for an interview from head to toe. Who knows, some crazy thing could happen during the interview. You get up, you don't think, and the interviewer sees your jacket, you're professionally dressed in the top, and then they see the sweatpants with the balloons on them or something at the bottom that you're dressed. And it tarnishes the impression. In addition, if we're dressed fully for an interview, it's easy to put ourselves into that position of being confident and professional. So I recommend dress for an interview from head to toe. The camera ought to be positioned at eye level. If the camera's too high, the interviewer is looking up our nostrils, which is not so pleasant. If the camera is too low, they're trying to see us. So we want to raise the computer if need be, but have that camera at eye level. And lighting, the lighting should be behind the computer. We do not want to sit with lighting behind us. We do not want to sit in front of a window. The reason is this: the light coming in from behind us can put us into a shadow. So any light should be behind the computer. And then there's a background. We don't want distractions during an interview. We want the interviewer to focus on us. So if you have stacks of papers and a bouncing beagle in the background, the interviewer's attention is going to be split. They may just miss out on some of your brilliance. So keep the background simple. Again, listening, we want to develop the skill of listening during a job interview. And one of the ways of doing that is to wait. Because there's a lag time during a virtual interview, when we think someone has finished, we want to wait another 2 to 3 seconds to speak. That way we won't be interrupting them. And you can see the picture here, eating. Of course, we never want to be eating on camera. Oh my Lord. Remember that when we're in a room, we are a fairly small entity in a bigger space. During a virtual interview, we're a big interview in a small space. So anything we do ends up being magnified. We can appear to be in someone's face. Disappear. So coughing and sneezing comes into play. Sometimes you can't help it. You're gonna sneeze. What to do is excuse yourself, put yourself on mute, and get out of the camera range. Either shut off your video or just move out of camera range. But no interviewer wants to have someone coughing and sneezing in their face. So we want to move away. Hands to nose. Keep your hands away from your face. So often I see people rubbing their nose, scratching their nose. And again, remember that in a virtual interview, we are right in front of someone. We want to keep our hands away from our nose. During allergy season, I've seen people run their hand across the bottom of their nose, ostensibly to catch the drips. Please, no, 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 no. As far as blowing the nose, remember that the computer microphone picks up errant sounds. I was in a virtual meeting one afternoon. The speaker had stopped speaking for a couple of seconds. In that, just in those couple of seconds, someone blew her nose. So the camera, the microphone picked her up and she's blowing her nose in our face. So again, if you absolutely must, excuse yourself, mute yourself, and go off camera. Arrival, I have the ketchup check. For an in-person interview, arrive early, of course, 15, 20 minutes early. Arrive soon, early enough that you can, you can check your appearance. What do you want? So what is it you want to check for? People say, what do I want to check for? I know I look fine. Well, you may think you look fine, but between your office or your home and the interview space, something might have happened. So, and I say check yourself for one reason. I was working for a small company once. It was just actually Ray and myself. We sold, companies contracted with us to sell their products. A colleague came into the office. He was in a similar situation. He sold products for various companies. And his name was Mark. Mark was all excited. He had been to one of the big box retailers. He said, the guy loved the product. He said it was all kinds of questions. I was there for an hour. It was a great, I know he's going to buy. And he started talking about the conversation with the buyer. I don't have any idea what he said though, because I was focused on the big ketchup stain on Mark's tie. I thought to myself, Mark, I hope you had those French fries after your meeting with the buyer and not before. So be certain to just make sure you look the way you want to look. Now, projecting confidence. There are many ways to project confidence during a job interview. One of them is, of course, our posture. Our posture and our attire are what the interviewer sees first, and they set that initial imprint. So we want to be sure to sit straight. That can take mindfulness. Where a lot of us are used to slouching, we could become, especially during the interview, if you become a little bit comfortable with the interviewer, you might tend to slouch a bit, but we want to absolutely maintain a straight, not ramrod straight, but a straight posture. People also ask, well, when do I sit at a job interview? When should I sit down? My advice is this: always sit down after the interviewer. When you enter the room, never sit down until the interviewer has first sat down. Often the interviewer will say, have a seat. If there are several chairs, you're not sure which one to take, ask the interviewer. Once he has sat down, once he or she has sat down, ask the interviewer, where would you like me to sit? But never sit before the interviewer does. Remember, it's kind of a host-guest thing. The interviewer is the guest, you're the host, you're the guest. We never sit before them. We wait for them to sit down. And of course, you want to rehearse. You want to go over your questions and responses. You want to have those important points to raise at top of mind. And if particularly if it's a virtual interview, go into Zoom. You can get a free account in Zoom and practice. Practice looking at the camera. That can take some practice because you're looking at instead of looking at the person on the screen, you're looking at this black dot, which takes some mindfulness. So do practice. And here are some warnings. We don't want to appear as immature on the internet. And the cell phone. I've actually had people ask me, why can I not leave my cell phone on during an interview? What if my parents are trying to reach me? A college student once asked me. I said, well, if you receive a call during an interview, are you going to run out of the interview? If you take a call during an interview, the interview is immediately in second place. You might as well leave the interview because it's unlikely you'll get the job. So she actually asked, what if there's an emergency going on? I said, well, if there's an emergency going on, you need to let people know I will be unable, out of reach from this time to this time and make other arrangements. If the emergency is such that you absolutely have to be there, you would reschedule the interview. That is an absolute last resort though, because you never know who's going to come before you, who might be enticing, who might receive a job offer. You may not even have a chance. So in any case, the phone is off and out of sight. Another alert, something to be aware of, is asking a question that's already answered online. Be sure you're familiar with the information on the website. The last thing you want to do is ask a question that's either in the company brochure or is online. And then, of course, we want to evaluate the interview. As we interview, we want to become better and better at it. The only way to do that is to evaluate each one. How did it go? And you can see some of the questions here you might ask. The more we evaluate our interviews and improve on them, the more at ease we're going to be, the more confident we're going to be. So take a few minutes to do this. It's well worth it. And then, of course, the final note. You want to write a thank you note. Handwritten thank you notes are becoming increasingly rare. As such, there's an opportunity here, an opportunity to stand out. We want to write a thank you note within a day, certainly within 2 days. Now, people have asked me, so sometimes companies they'll be making up their mind within a day or two. So the thank you note may come after the decision's been made. So what you can do is certainly send an email to the interviewer right away and follow it up with a handwritten note. So look, these are the topics we've covered. So let's say you follow some of these guidelines, these techniques. You go on the internet, to company website, you take a look at the media page, and you write down some information about some of the new products. Let's say that in a video conference, you're careful to keep your background simple and to have the camera at eye level. Let's say you write a thank you note. Let's say you practice a few of these, you implement a few of these techniques. Are you going to be assured of a job offer with the next interview? Are companies going to come flocking to you, asking for you to work with them? Likely not. The reason is this: it's the details that matter. Arthur Conan Doyle got it. He understood it. It's the little things that are infinitely the most. It's the details that are the most. And with the interview process, it's the details in the aggregate. It's not when we use one or two of them. It's when we use many of them that we project this strong, confident, professional presence. It's like the details that make the room. The details give the room its personality. It's these details that we incorporate into our interviews that give us a strong professional presence, confident presence. So what you need to do, if you want to project a strong, confident, professional presence, this is essentially what you need to do. Clarify, convey, and then connect. Now, you may take the information you've learned tonight. You may do some research. You may come up with your own program to implement. You may apply some of the techniques, evaluate them. How did it go? What can I change? And go through this process yourself of projecting a strong, confident, professional image. You can do that. But if you're nervous about an interview and you want to go through this process yourself, you can do that. Do a lot of research, write yourself up a program. But if it's not your shtick, if you have other priorities, you might want to have a little help. Because doing it yourself is going to mean slogging through the process. So as such, I'm offering a 25-minute complimentary call. During this call, we'll talk about your goals. We'll talk about some of the challenges that are impeding you from reaching your goals, from reaching your goal of having a strong, confident, professional presence at an interview. And we could talk about support options. The support may come from me. It may come from somebody else. It may be by the end of the conversation, you've decided you can do this yourself, but you'll have a plan of action. You'll have a vision for next steps. In any case, so these are some of the other topics that I cover. I have programs for each of these topics, and I work with my clients on all of these. So if you're looking for some help, you'll see here, free exploratory conversation with Janet. You can go to that URL and it's my calendar. So you'll be able to set up a time for a complimentary call. If you'd like a summary of this presentation, there's a detailed summary available. Simply email me and I will email one back to you. In addition, I have for a free gift, it's the solutions to 8 etiquette dilemmas. So if you'd like to receive that, simply go to my website. In the headline, there's a box that says, I think it says free etiquette tips. You can put your email. And along with the free gift, you will receive an every other week quick etiquette tip. I call it Manners in a Minute because you can read it in less than a minute. If you have any questions on anything presented during this presentation, simply email me. I'm happy to answer them. So I thank you for your time and for your attention, and I wish you many, many enjoyable interviews ahead in which you are strong, you feel confident, professional, and I wish you every success in your professional life. Thank you.
Janet, thank you so much. It really was. It was entertaining and extremely helpful. And I love the fact that you're giving people the chance to contact you afterwards if they have anything, because it's a difficult thing to interview. And so I think we all need a brushing up every now and then. A couple things that I want to just mention. I think that was excellent advice on the dress code, especially on Casual Friday. And it was one of those things that I never would have occurred to me to show up at the company and avoid Fridays, because most people are like, oh, I've got the weekend, I can go, and then get entirely the wrong advice. And the other, the idea of dressing for a video interview, you're absolutely spot on correct. I think sometimes once you put on an outfit that you feel confident in, it really makes a total difference. And being stuck in the home, you can kind of fall into a rut, and putting on that presence helps you create that presence. So thank you so much for that. Once again, those of you who are watching this online, you can see this on YouTube. You can see this on Facebook, on the Bigelow Library's website. Just log into the Bigelow Library's website, the actual website. We have a bunch of other how to get a job series presentations that we've recorded, and you'll find out more information about upcoming events. We will most likely be having, hopefully one of these days, we'll be back into actual live presentations. Janet does a fabulous job on live presentations, so check out her website and see where she might be appearing next. Thank you so much. Good night to you all, and stay safe and stay happy. Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.